Director here at Penn State ICA.
Make sure it's not hidden.
Got me?
There we go. Yep.
I'm the Assistant Athletic Director for Performance Science here at Penn State. One of the things that I'm tasked with is drawing forward and pushing forward what we call our sports performance team. And we're going to talk about that a little bit today, but basically what sports performance is, and it's also called high performance in the elite sport industry. But basically our thing is just keeping the student athlete at the center of everything that we do from a lot of different aspects of all the services that we provide. Okay, a little bit about myself. I've been here at Penn State since 2019. Prior to Penn State, in this space, I was at Baylor University for about 7 years. I was a strength conditioning coach and taught in the Health and Human Performance Department there on campus. Learned a lot of things there. Learned how to teach, learned how to talk, learned how to think about the athlete, not just from my lens, but from a lot of different areas. Before that, I was a football coach at a Division III college, and then even before that, I was at West Virginia University studying this whole thing here. But kind of fast forward here to Penn State, our department within sports performance is run by Dr. Lauren Rhodes. Okay, so her main initiative is to drive this idea of sports performance forward. And it's not anything new. We've had this department since Sandy Barber, our athletic director, has been here. But since Lauren has been here for about a year, Dr. Rhodes has charged us with bringing all the different departments that support our student athletes under one umbrella. And I've got these listed at the bottom. I'm going to let Coach Adam Gahm here in a second talk a little bit more about performance enhancement. That's our strength conditioning division. But each one of these departments means a lot to us in how we prepare our athletes. In terms of performance, yes, we need to win a lot of ball games, but also for health and wellness as well. Our first one I had mentioned is strength conditioning. Won't dig into that and steal Adam's thunder, but our next one is performance nutrition. That's led by Nikki Juppy. She's our assistant AD for performance nutrition. And basically we have fueling stations all over campus. It could be at the baseball ballpark, at the Lash football complex. It could be at Rec Hall. Every venue that our student athletes are in, there's fueling opportunities. Okay, we also have a training table that this department will operate where our athletes will go eat at different times of the day. Okay, so this main thing here within this department is refueling, replenishing athletes, whether it's post-training, pre-training, whatever that may be, but health and performance in regard to nutrition is that area. Okay, the next area is sports performance. This is kind of two branches though, okay? Sports medicine. Sports medicine has two different branches with the orthopedic side run by Dr. Wayne Sebastianelli and our athletic training side. Many of you guys may know some athletic training students on campus, and that's run by Renee Messina. Their biggest thing is just keeping athletes healthy, huge in the recovery space, and just keeping things moving following maybe an acute injury. Okay? We have athletic training venues at every one of our sites, whether it's a competition site or a training venue. AHPS it stands for Applied Health and Performance Science. I'll dig into that a little bit later, but that's the subdisciplinary unit that I run. That is kind of performance science, finding innovation within research, scholarship, and data to inform our practice. Performance psychology, that is run by Dr. Carl Olson. He actually used to teach in HHD years back, but Dr. Olson deals with a lot of the things in terms of the psychological aspects of how we can maximize our performance, how we can have a great performance, clear it, move on, or how we can actually have a poor performance, clear that, and move on. Dr. Olson also has Adriana Napolitano that works with him. Our mental health services, check that, come back here. Our mental health services here is actually not embedded within ICA. ICA is Intercollegiate Athletics here at Penn State. Mental health is called Counseling and Psychological Service, and it's actually on campus. And Nicole DeFerrari is our administrator over there. She's fantastic for working with our student athletes in regard to the mental aspects of their life. And then finally, health and welfare and development is run by Keith Embray. Keith is the former NFL guy. He played college football a long time ago, and he works with our athletes from everything from career services to transitioning from life from being a student athlete to being a professional athlete or just a professional in life, and now in the new age of name, image, and likeness, and how many of our athletes can actually make cash based on their name here as an amateur athlete. He works in that space. But the biggest thing is we view this oftentimes in the world on how we train our athletes from a reductionist lens. Okay, when we think about a reductionist type approach, basically that's pulling the athlete apart. Okay, so when you think about old school theories of reductionism, it's like a plant that's putting a car together. You can take it, reverse engineer it, pull the car apart. I can take the tire off, take the engine off, and I can put it back, and a lot of times it'll work again. That doesn't happen with our athletes. We can't just pull the athletes apart and all get our money, all get our time, and expect them to perform. It just does not happen like that. So because of that, instead of operating in silos, we operate with the big S here, and that's our sports performance division. We'll spend a little bit more time talking about that today, but especially as it pertains to opportunities for you guys. If you guys have interest in any one of these areas, let's have a conversation. It could be after this. It could be in the weeks to come. If you have any area of interest, let's have a conversation. But even more importantly, if you have any area of interest in the broader picture of what performance is, on how you get athletes better and how you keep them healthy throughout their entire lives, we can have a conversation there too. I'll pass it over to Adam. He's going to take us through our pyramid and his area in strength conditioning.
Thank you. All right, so as I mentioned before, my name is Adam Gahm. I'm a strength and conditioning coach here at Penn State. I work with the men's soccer team and the softball team. Prior to that, I actually just stepped into that role this fall. Prior to that, I actually worked in Nellie's department, the performance science department, for a little bit over a year. Prior to that, I was a strength and conditioning coach at Miami of Ohio for, right around 4 years. Prior to that, I got my graduate degree, my master's degree from East Stroudsburg University. That's pretty local to here, just a couple hours away. And before that, I went to the University of Dayton for my undergrad. All right, so that's just a little bit about me. But moving on, more importantly, Nellie kind of mentioned that you can't take an athlete apart, fix one thing, put them back together, and expect it to be all good. All right, and we improve performance somehow. All right, so a good word for that is holistic. All right, so we believe in very holistic athlete development here with Penn State Sports Performance. So what that means and how we kind of visualize that and break it all down is with our holistic athlete development pyramid. All right, so you can see these blocks kind of build on each other. All right, and down at the bottom, we have a very thick, strong base. All right, and it's a very broad kind of health and wellness down there at the bottom. So the very first thing that we address and that we have to make sure is rock solid with our athletes is health and wellness. All right, that is simple things, simple everyday habits and decisions and routines that our athletes can build upon and get into that are going to lay the foundation for the rest of their development. All right, this is basically everything the athletes do when they're not being an athlete, all right, which they spend a lot more of their day not being an athlete than they do being an athlete. All right, at most, they're allowed to spend 20 hours a week actually being an athlete. That leaves a lot of time to be just a normal, everyday student, okay? And that's what we address with health and wellness. That's things like sleep, all right? That's both getting enough sleep, getting in a good sleep routine, getting good quality sleep. We do a ton of education on that. That's building good habits and a good routine throughout your day, having a good plan for every day, every week, every month, every semester, all right, to make sure that stress and just things aren't piling up on top of the athletes and they're staying ahead of their coursework, their internships, their actual athletics as well. Just having a good, solid foundation to build everything else upon. All right, so if that isn't well built, if it's not broad and thick, all right, we're only going to be able to stack that pyramid so high. All right, so that's the first most important thing that we address. All right, moving on from there is when we actually address the athlete. Okay, so we have the physical, technical, tactical, and mental side of being an athlete. All right, so the physical side, that one's pretty obvious. All right, that's what my department is obviously heavily involved with. That's becoming more powerful. That's becoming stronger. All right, that's becoming more well-conditioned. That's making them faster. All right, any kind of physical output that you can think of, that's the physical block. That one's very easy, not easy, but very simple to address. All right, in the middle, you have the technical and tactical blocks. That's what the sport coaches do. All right, so technical, that's like your actual individual technique. So if it's baseball, it's your throwing mechanics. Okay, if it's soccer, it's how you kick the ball. All right, in basketball, it's how you dribble, how you shoot. All right, the tactical side is the X's and O's of your sport. All right, so in football, do you know what your scheme is this weekend against Iowa? Okay, in baseball, do you know your first and third plays? Stuff like that. The mental side, we kind of like to say that anybody that is involved with the daily life of the athlete is going to be involved with, developing the mental side of the athlete. But more importantly, or more specifically, we do have that performance psychology department here at Penn State as well that is going to specifically address mental development with our athletes. All right, so all of that kind of works together, builds upon each other, all right, builds up to what we call high performance. And really all high performance is achieving a set goal or standard or output consistently. All right, so performance would be doing it one time. All right, getting lucky. You did it once, but high performance is doing it over and over and over again consistently. All right. So that's our athlete development pyramid. That's how we look at kind of holistically, how do you develop an athlete, making sure you're not missing any of those pieces. Wrong one? There we go. All right. More specifically, all right, so we talked about the physical block. That is strength and conditioning, basically. All right, so I'm going to talk just very briefly about the performance enhancement department here at Penn State. That is our terminology for strength and conditioning. We have a pretty large performance enhancement department here at Penn State. We have 15 full-time strength and conditioning coaches that work out of 5 varsity weight rooms. Those are the football weight room. We have a weight room in Pagula Ice Arena. We have a East Area locker room, which is kind of our Olympic sports training center. We have a weight room at Rec Hall, which is over where like wrestling, women's volleyball, the soccer's, that's where they're housed across campus. And then we also have one in multi-sport facility, which is our indoor track and field facility. All right. All of our coaches come from pretty diverse backgrounds, very kind of different paths that got into how they got into strength and conditioning. They're all experts at what they do. We all work with kind of a wide variety of different teams. Like I mentioned, I work with men's soccer and softball. You can't really get two more opposite teams than a men's soccer team and a softball team. You talk about one team whose conditioning levels have to be probably the highest of any team besides cross country here, and then the soccer or the softball team that is the complete opposite. It's pure power conditioning, not much in play there. So we have to be very well-rounded, kind of Swiss Army knives, if you will, in terms of our background and our knowledge and our ability to train athletes with completely different demands in their sport. We work extremely closely with Nellie's department, the performance science department. Me especially, having previously worked in that department, we work hand in hand. A lot of what they do is with the goal of making us as strength and conditioning coaches better and making the product that we deliver to our athletes the best that it possibly can be. And Nellie's going to get a little bit more into how we work together and what that department kind of brings to us and to the athletes.
All right, we'll transition back. I had mentioned, the many different aspects of performance. We are going to dig into 2. First one being the strength conditioning aspect, and then the second one, our area in performance science. And we want to break ours in performance science down into 2 different component parts, simply because it is a little bit of abstract in what we do. And it's also somewhat new. It's hard to kind of put a finger on it because everybody does this a little bit different. Ours, from Sandy Barber, our AD, is broken into applied health and performance science, and it speaks directly to the pyramid, and you'll see that in the next slide. The first part right here, applied health, that deals with the very, very bottom. Okay, that's all the things that Adam mentioned as the foundation. It's doing the little things right. It's the low-hanging fruit. And then the next little area, it's kind of the fancy things. You see the things on ESPN Sports Science, all the tech, all the gadgets, all the innovation. That's what falls in here. Adam mentioned earlier today when he was talking to some recruits in our lab that our department is kind of like a catch-all department, and it really is. We speak across different disciplines, and we work in a lot of different areas. But we break our department in applied health and performance science into 4 categories. The first one being performance technology. That's managing all of our tech. 9 different teams that we sponsor here at Penn State use some sort of wearable. That could be a heart rate monitor, it could be a GPS device, it could be any type of tracker during competitions and practice. That is in this. We use force plates that Adam alluded to. Every single one of our training venues and our strength rooms actually has a force plate that we can evaluate athletes and how they produce power or how they produce force with any differences in asymmetry. That's kind of where that falls. When you collect a lot of information from your technology, whether it's a wearable, whether it's a device sitting on the floor, you're going to have a lot of data. We have a lot of good relationships with people across campus, our sports analytics club, and we have a base level of understanding of how we can produce reports for our coaches. That's where we're going to get information to help us make decisions. The next one, performance operations. That's just being consistent. If there's ever staff turnover, if there's ever changes in athletes over time, if staff changes what they're doing or responsibilities, you don't want to have to start back from square one. And that does happen sometimes. It's really easy to think about high-level sport. You're always kind of going forward. There are some times where you got to start back at square one, but we want to minimize how many times we do that. And in that category, that's what we're working there. Think about a system of like checks and balances. And then finally, learning and development. We think about learning as a big competitive advantage, so we're always trying to drive different things. We promote different things like performance school for our coaches, performance academy for our student athletes, and we use Microsoft Teams. Some people like Teams, some people don't, but we use Teams to bring everybody together. Okay? I would encourage everybody, if you're a social media kind of person, follow these 3 different departments. These are the departments in performance that use social media. We post a lot of information, whether it's from the performance department with Coach Adam and their area, posting things about internships, posting things about training, whether it's nutrition. Nikki Juppie's area, they're always posting things about how to fuel, how to take care of your body. And then within our area in applied health and performance science, we're just talking everything performance, how to be healthy, consistent, and how to win some ball games. Kind of like we mentioned at the beginning, our area within performance here at Penn State, we have a lot of different areas. We're extremely fortunate to be able to take care of our athletes from a lot of different areas. But what we're fighting in today's world with elite level athletes is we can't pull the athlete apart. Just like that reductionist approach I mentioned. It can't be about the little sub-disciplines. It needs to be about one group. And that's kind of what we're doing, is just talking performance. So really appreciate you guys for having us today. We'll spend some time here. If anybody has any questions, we'll field some questions or we can hang around and talk. But thank you guys so much for the time.
All right, let's open it up for questions. You guys have them right in front of you. I know some of you guys were asking about strength and conditioning opportunities within varsity athletics. Maybe sort of sparked a different career path for you to think about. So let's use the time wisely here. You have Nellie and Adam in front of you. So what questions do you have? Nothing? They answered everything.
Yes, ma'am.
What's like a typical day-to-day?
For what area?
I guess for like what do you do day-to-day?
So mine may be a little bit different from day to day. So I will range from sitting into a staff meeting, let's say a football staff meeting early, where you may be talking about personnel or recruiting, bringing student athletes in, using your information to evaluate a student athlete. And then what I try to do is do as many rounds as I can. So, like I'm biased because Adam is one of my guys. He came up with our department. He grew up with me. So I'm always going to go try to find what Adam's doing with one of his teams. If nothing else, just say hello. Get eyes on him, see if he needs anything, go talk to some student athletes if possible. Then I go in and do some different work, whether it's a meeting with administration because of my administrative level position, or a meeting with a coach talking about procuring a piece of technology. And then you're in the afternoon, and then I try to bounce around the different practices. So it is kind of all over the place. It's not really standardized, but that's it in performance science for us.
Adam, you want to share your day today?
Yeah.
I know some of you guys are looking to be strength and conditioning coaches, so this might be insightful too.
Yeah, typical day. The way it works in college athletics, pretty much all teams are going to train either really early in the morning or late at night, because that's during the day the kids have to be in classes. So just today, I had men's soccer lift from 7 to 8 a.m. Before that, I had a small group of divers from 6 to 7 a.m. So 6 to 7, men's soccer lifts 7 to 8. Right after that, men's soccer goes to practice from 8 to 9:30. So I was out at practice with them, also running their catapult GPS system for them. For the most part, if you're going to be a strength and conditioning coach, especially moving forward in the future, you're going to need to know how to manage and use and analyze wearable technology, like Nellie mentioned, whether that's catapult GPS or heart rate monitors or anything like that. So that covered from 6 to 9:30. Right after that, we had a meeting, men's soccer had a meeting with our performance nutrition department from 9:30 to 10 that I also attended. From 10 to 11, I downloaded all of the catapult data from the session, got a report made as fast as I could to send to the coaches, sent that off to the coaches, gave feedback to the athletes on how they did today according to catapult. From 11:30 to 12:30, I was with a softball recruit that they had on campus. I met with her for an hour. After that, me and Nellie went and got lunch together. We had a meeting for, hour and a half, discussing you guys a lot, discussing the internship program. Got some ideas from him on some men's soccer training moving forward. Then we came here, talked to you guys. Later today, I will have a softball team lift post-practice at 6:30 to 7:30 this evening. So, got in about 5 a.m. to get ready for the 6 a.m. lift, and last group will finish up about 7:30.